Welcome back to Olevel Oasis. We're continuing with Chapter 11, which focuses on transport in humans. Earlier, we discussed the circulatory system and learned about the double circulation in humans, where blood passes through the heart twice. Now, we'll move on to the mammalian heart to explore this organ in more detail, its structure, its importance, and how it works. Here is the syllabus content we'll be following for this unit. Let's get started. Let's begin with the first point in the specification. Specification number 1 asks us to identify the main structures of the mammalian heart. These include the muscular wall, the septum, the left and right ventricles, the left and right atria, the atrioventricular valves, the semolina valves, and the coronary arteries. So for this part, we need to look closely at the structure of the heart and understand where each of these features is located. As we look at the heart, remember that it is a strong muscular organ with structures on both the outside and the inside, and each part plays a vital role in how the heart works. The difference between the two views we see is simply the angle. One shows us the outer surface and the major blood vessels, while the other opens up the heart to reveal what is happening inside. In the external view, we focus on the surface features of the heart. Here we can clearly see the major blood vessels, such as the superior and inferior vena cavae, the aorta, and the pulmonary arteries and veins. We also notice the atria and ventricles from the outside along with the coronary arteries and veins that supply blood to the heart muscle itself. When we move to the internal view, the cross-section allows us to see the four chambers, the right and left atria at the top, and the right and left ventricles at the bottom. We can also observe the septum, which separates the two ventricles, and the important valves like the tricuspid, bicuspid or mitral, aortic, and pulmonary valves that control blood flow. Another key point shown here is the difference in thickness of the muscular walls, with the left ventricle having a much thicker wall compared to the right, because it must pump blood all around the body. This comparison helps us understand how the heart's external and internal structures work together to maintain efficient circulation. Let's start by examining the external structures of the heart. When we look at the labeled diagram, we can clearly see many important features on the surface of a mammalian heart. But before we move into the details, there is one thing we should always remember. The left side that appears in the textbook diagram actually represents the right side of the heart, because the illustration is shown as a mirror image. With that in mind, we can begin identifying the structures. On one side, we find the superior vena cava, the right pulmonary arteries and veins, the right atrium, the right coronary arteries, and the right ventricle. As we move downward along this view, the inferior vena cava becomes visible. On the opposite side of the heart, the diagram highlights the aorta, the left pulmonary arteries and veins, the left atrium, the left cardiac vein, the left coronary arteries, and finally the left ventricle. Together, these components form the outer anatomy of the heart and help us understand where blood enters and exits the organ. Now, let's explore these major components in more detail. The aorta, the largest artery in the body, begins at the left ventricle and delivers oxygenated blood to the entire body. Just below it, the inferior vena cava carries deoxygenated blood from the lower body back to the right atrium. The left atrium, one of the upper chambers, receives oxygenated blood from the pulmonary veins. Close by, the left cardiac vein runs alongside the left coronary artery and drains into the coronary sinus, ensuring the heart muscle receives its own supply of blood. The left coronary arteries branch directly from the aorta and supply oxygenated blood to the left side of the heart muscle. The left pulmonary arteries, seen in the external structure, carry deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the left lung, while the left pulmonary veins bring freshly oxygenated blood back to the left atrium. The left ventricle, which is clearly visible on the surface, pumps oxygen-rich blood into the aorta. On the other side, the right atrium collects deoxygenated blood from the superior and inferior venae cavae. The right coronary arteries deliver blood to the right side of the heart muscle. The right pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the right lung, and the right pulmonary veins return oxygenated blood from the lung to the left atrium. Finally, the right ventricle pumps blood into the pulmonary artery, starting its journey toward the lungs for oxygenation. All these external structures together give us a complete understanding of how blood moves in and out of the heart, how circulation is maintained, and how the outer anatomy protects the delicate internal components of this vital organ. Now let's take a closer look at the internal structure of the mammalian heart. In this cross-sectional view, the heart is open to reveal the features inside, allowing us to clearly observe the chambers, valves, major vessels, and the muscular walls that support its function. This diagram highlights several key features that help us understand how the heart works from within. As we explore the diagram, we first notice the four chambers of the heart: the right atrium, the left atrium, the right ventricle, and the left ventricle. These chambers work together to receive and pump blood, forming the core of the heart's internal structure. At the top of the diagram, the aorta is visible along with the superior vena cava, which brings deoxygenated blood from the upper body into the right atrium. Nearby, we can see the right pulmonary artery and right pulmonary veins, along with the right atrium itself. Between the right atrium and the right ventricle, we find the tricuspid valve, one of the four major valves that ensure blood flows in only one direction. Just below it lies the right ventricle. On the left side of the heart, the diagram shows the left pulmonary artery, the left atrium, and the left pulmonary veins, which return oxygenated blood from the lungs. Separating the left atrium from the left ventricle is the bicuspid or mitral valve, another important atrioventricular valve. At the exits of the ventricles, we can identify the pulmonary valve, which controls blood flow from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery, and the aortic valve, which regulates the movement of blood from the left ventricle into the aorta. These are known as the semilunar valves. All four valves, tricuspid, bicuspid, pulmonary, and aortic, work together to maintain a one-way flow of blood throughout the heart. At the center of the cross-section lies the septum, a strong muscular wall that separates the right and left sides of the heart to prevent the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Lower in the diagram, the inferior vena cava can be seen bringing deoxygenated blood from the lower body into the right atrium. Surrounding the chambers, we can observe the heart's muscular wall, and it is especially clear that the wall of the left ventricle is much thicker than the wall of the right. This difference is important because the left ventricle must generate enough force to pump oxygenated blood to the entire body, while the right ventricle only pumps blood to the lungs. Overall, this internal view illustrates how the heart receives deoxygenated blood, sends it to the lungs for oxygenation, and then pumps oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. Each structure, whether a chamber, valve, or vessel, each one plays a precise role in ensuring efficient and continuous blood circulation. So, when we talk about the mammalian heart, we are referring to a strong and powerful muscular organ found in the chest cavity, positioned slightly toward the left side of the body. It functions as the central pump of the circulatory system, working constantly to keep blood moving throughout the entire body. Its primary role is to ensure that every cell receives a steady supply of oxygen and essential nutrients. At the same time, it helps the body remove carbon dioxide and other waste products by sending blood to the lungs for gas exchange and transporting waste to organs that can eliminate it. Since mammals are warm-blooded and have high energy needs, the mammalian heart operates with remarkable efficiency and endurance. It maintains a stable internal environment and supports all the activities that allow the body to function properly. So, the main features of the mammalian heart that we need to remember are quite straightforward. First, the heart is divided into 4 chambers, 2 upper chambers called atria and 2 lower chambers called ventricles. It also operates through a system of double circulation, where one route carries blood to the lungs to pick up oxygen, and the other sends oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. A strong muscular wall known as the septum separates the left and right sides of the heart, ensuring that oxygenated and deoxygenated blood do not mix. On the right side, the heart receives deoxygenated blood from the body and pumps it to the lungs, while the left side receives oxygenated blood from the lungs and distributes it throughout the body. The heart is made of cardiac muscle, a special type of muscle that contracts continuously and in a steady rhythm. Valves inside the heart make sure that blood always flows in a single direction, preventing any backflow. Veins bring blood into the heart, and arteries carry blood away from it. Finally, the heart muscle itself is nourished by the coronary arteries, which supply it with the oxygen and nutrients needed to keep it functioning effectively.